There is a great punishment. There's a great flood that is coming, and it's coming in this time. That is exactly where we are right now in the story of Noah's Ark, mere hours or days away from a full flood pouring on the face of the earth. It's not a flood of water. It is a flood of blood. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الإمام والمهدينا وسلم تسليما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My dear brother Ian.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Abu Sadiq.
Thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you, Abu Sadiq, for having me.
So today we want to have a conversation in which we will discuss the matter of this call, the da'wah of the Qa'im, the da'wah of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, and what the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam have said in regards to it. Okay? So first off, there is this narration from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, in which he says that the example of my Ahlul Bayt, the example of my family, the example of the people of the house. Okay? And now this term, Ahlul Bayt, the people of the house, it's very important to distinguish for our viewers where this term comes from and who it is that it is referring to exactly. Okay? And in the Quran, there's a verse from the Quran in Surah Al-Ahzab 33, verse 33, in which the verse says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, verily Allah wishes to remove all impurities from you, O people of the house, and to purify you a thorough purification. Okay? So when this verse came down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it essentially stated that there was a group of people, which are the Ahlul Bayt, the people of the house, right? Whom God had purified entirely, thoroughly, okay? And that's a very important matter. And so Sunnis and Shia, the sects of Muslims, all right, the two major sects. In fact, all sects of Muslims have came up with their own interpretation, but for the purposes of this episode, we're going to discuss how the different sects of Islam, mainly Sunni and Shia, have taken this verse to mean. Like, who do they think the verse is referring to? For the Sunnis, they believe that it is referring to, it's a general reference to all of the family members of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it would refer to obviously himself. It would refer to his daughter Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, but it would also refer to his wives. Okay, they were considered to be the people that are in the house of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Shia, however, they strongly deny that, and they do not believe that it is referring to the wives of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they believe that another tradition or narration which they have, that is one of the most important narrations in all of Shia Islam, that is the tradition of the cloak, clarifies who it is that this verse is referring to. Okay? And the narration basically states that one day the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not feeling so well. And so he was at home, he was feeling ill. Fatima Zahra, his daughter, was there. He basically asks her to bring to him a Yamani cloak that he has, right? And she fetches this cloak and she places it on top of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then she asks permission that she also can get under the cloak with the Prophet. And the Prophet allows her and grants her permission to do so. And then Imam Ali alayhi salam, he comes and he also wishes to be under the cloak and be beside the Prophet during this time where he's not feeling well. And then Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein alayhim salam, they also come forward and they wish and they ask permission from the Prophet that they too be under the cloak with him during this time that he's not feeling well. And so here you have this scene where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is there, and he's under this cloak. He's wrapped with this Yemeni cloak, and I think that the word Yemeni also is very important because there's a tie between the character of the Yemeni who comes in the end times, which is the times that we're in today, and between this Yemeni cloak. But we'll leave that for another episode. And so you have this scene where the Prophet Muhammad is not feeling good and he's there with his most beloved ones, right? And so it's Ali, Fatima, Al-Hasan, Al-Hussein, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam all together. And then the narration states that the wife of the Prophet Muhammad, one of the wives of the Prophet, had asked permission also to enter into the cloak, under the cloak, and permission was denied for her. And then finally, Gabriel descends down and he asks permission for the Prophet Muhammad that he also may be under the cloak with them. And the Prophet grants Gabriel permission. And so you have there clearly identified who the people of the cloak are. And those are the five which are referred to as the Ahlul Kisa, or the people of the cloak, in the Shia narrations, in addition to Gabriel. And then Gabriel informs the Prophet Muhammad at that moment that his Lord sends peace and prayers and blessings upon him, and that his Lord, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has brought down this verse in honor of them. And the verse was that verse from Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 33, "Verily Allah wishes to purify you, O people of the house, and cleanse you a thorough cleansing, or a thorough purification." And it is believed that this was the moment in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had clarified for the Muslims that it is not just Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who's infallible, right? And that cannot do anything wrong, because all that was impure, all the impurity was taken away from him, and also the people of the house that are with him, meaning Fatima and Ali and Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein. And they believe that, for that reason, those Imams are the rightful successors after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Shia, they also add to the term Ahlul Bayt the 9 Imams that come from the descendants of Al-Hussein alayhi salam, all right? And so the term, the people of the cloak, is interchangeable with the term people of the house, right? The Ahlul Bayt is the same thing as the Ahlul Kisa, and they're pure from anything that is impure. They're cleansed of the devil and of the whispers of the devil, and they are the Ahlul Bayt. Now, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made a statement which is very much present in Sunni sources and also present in Shia sources, and it's considered to be, like I said earlier, one of the most important narrations in all of Shia Islam. And the narration states, the example of my Ahlul Bayt, which we have now clarified who are the Ahlul Bayt, is like that of Noah's Ark. Whoever rides it is saved, and whoever abandons it drowns. Okay? So that was one narration in the midst of many other narrations in which he says Al-Hussein is from him and he is from Al-Hussein, or that, I am asking you to hold on to the Quran and my Ahlul Bayt and my people of the house. They are like this until they return to me at the pond, or that they will always remain together until the day of judgment, etc. And so this parallel now is drawn between the people of the house and between Noah's Ark. And so now we have the example of Noah's Ark in its time, and we have a modern day Noah's Ark for this day and age, and also for all ages, really. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stands in this new example or parable of Noah's Ark in the place of Noah. And so the Prophet Muhammad, he came, he had a message, he was an Ulil Azm prophet, just like Noah was. He brought down the Quran, just like Noah brought down a book in his time. And the Prophet Muhammad warned the people. In Noah's time, Noah instructed the people that there was a storm coming, there was a great punishment that was coming down on humanity, and that people had to enter into the ark before it was too late. And the same thing happens here, where you have the Prophet Muhammad warning in many narrations that there will be this punishment of the end times, right? And he spoke a lot about the trials and tribulations which would befall mankind. He spoke about the Antichrist. He spoke about the Sufyani. He spoke about many signs of suffering, much like those that were mentioned in the book of Revelation and in other places in the Torah and in the Gospels. The Prophet warned of that, and he also instructed the Muslim nation and all those who believed in him to enter upon his ark. And his ark it's a symbolic ark, however, and that is the ark which is the people of the house, that we have to hold on to them, that we have to be inside of their wilaya, under their guardianship, right? Under their umbrella, just like the people in the time of Noah were under the umbrella and the protection of Noah's Ark. So that's really, really important. And it was important for those people in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam to take Imam Ali as Noah's Ark and to as the Prophet Muhammad's, in this case is the Prophet Muhammad's Ark. And it was important for all the people that lived in the times of the Imams, from Imam al-Hasan all the way down to Imam al-Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam, to enter upon the Ark of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, or else they would be destroyed, right? Essentially, they would be drowned, and that goes very much alongside with the narration that says, whoever doesn't recognize the Imam of the time has died a death of ignorance or hypocrisy, right? Or the death of Jahiliyyah. But there are other narrations that hone in on and they specify and speak more about the parallel between Noah's time and Noah's Ark, and between the time of the Qa'im or the Mahdi and his da'wah especially. Yeah. And so there's an emphasis placed on this Ark of the Prophet Muhammad, or Noah's Ark, that exists in that time especially. And so one narration states that there's basically many sunnahs in the da'wah of the Qa'im that are sunnahs from the da'wahs of the previous prophets and messengers. Okay. And then it says that in the da'wah of the Qa'im, there is a sunnah of Adam, and there's a sunnah of Noah, and there's a sunnah of Job, and there's a sunnah of Jonah, and there's a sunnah of Jesus, and there's a sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when it spoke about the sunnah from Noah's time, that exists in the time of the Qa'im, it said that it is the length of the matter, the longness of the matter. And so other narrations clarified, and certainly Imam Ahmad al-Hasan alayhi salam also did, and that is that there would be a long wait in regards to the da'wah of the Qa'im or the Mahdi, that it doesn't happen that the character of the Qa'im, the riser, appears and then the next day there is a rise, but rather he has a da'wah or a call, and he's calling people towards the ark, much like Noah did. Noah, he called towards the ark for 950 years. The same thing happens in the time of the Qa'im, except that it's not 950 years, but he's calling for a very long time the people to come help him and to board the ark. And he faces kind of the same struggles that Noah did in his time, of people mocking and belying and this matter. So we know that the dawah is long. Another narration explains why the dawah is long, and stresses on that. And it gives us a story about what happened in the time of Noah that caused it to be so long. And it states in this narration that that is the same reason why the dawah of the Qa'im is elongated or prolonged before the relief happens. And so basically the narration states that in the time of Noah, Noah had a call, and he was calling the people towards God and the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And many people initially responded to his call. And he warned them and promised them that a punishment would come down. And naturally, the people asked him, when is the punishment going to come down? And then Gabriel came down upon him, and Gabriel gave Noah a date tree, a palm tree seed, right? And he told him to plant this seed. And to tell his people to plant this seed, and that when the seed became a tree, that is when the relief would happen, and that's when the flood would take place. And so he went to his people and he informed them, and the people were very anxious and they were very excited, and they took full advantage of the fact that, that now we have a specific date and a specific hour that we can look forward to. And they became nervous, and their faith was really, high, because they thought to themselves, why would Noah make such a promise, if he wasn't sure about it? And so they worked really hard, and they began to help Noah in building the ark, and they looked forward to a state in which Noah would be the king of it, or the ruler of it, and a state whereby they would be, co-rulers with Noah and have much ability and riches in the land. But God looked into the hearts of the people that were with Noah, the narration states, and he found that not all of them were sincere, that many of them, if they went on to live into the post-flood era on the earth, that they would merely just fill it up with corruption again. That not all of those people that responded to the call of Noah had pure clay. Many of them, their clay was evil, meaning they were the sons and daughters of Cain, lanatullah alayh. And they, merely were afraid of the fact that a flood could happen. Yes, they were believers in Noah, but they were only believers because there was a warning that affected them personally, or there was a gain that they saw that they could reach out towards them and grab. So God wished to test them, the narration states, so that only those who were true believers in Noah without any conditions, those who believed because they saw and knew that Noah was a true messenger from God, and because they sought God alone, not because they sought fame and fortune, or riches and physical materialistic properties or enjoyment. God didn't want those ones. He only wanted the true believers. And so he tested them. And he sent Gabriel back down at a later time when the date tree reached, the seed became a full tree. So what happened then? The people came to Noah and they said to him, "Oh my God, it's time. Here it is. The seed, we planted it. Now it's a full-grown palm tree. It's given forward its own seeds now. Now there's dates that are growing on it, and so we await God's promise. When's it going to happen?" and the ark is fully built now. Noah, seeking advice from his Lord, he shuts his eyes, and Gabriel comes down upon him. And Gabriel tells him, Noah, tell them that the matter has been delayed, and to take a seed from the fruit of the tree, right? And to plant it into the earth again, and tell them that when that new tree grows and becomes a full tree and gives forward its fruit, then will be the punishment. The people were shocked instantly. They couldn't believe it. They were split immediately into three groups. There was a group that disbelieved. They said, my goodness, we wasted our time. This guy is clearly a liar. What kind of nonsense is that? God doesn't change his mind. How could it be that God Almighty be with this man, and he told us that this was going to happen, and then it doesn't happen? Clearly, we should have never followed this man. And they disbelieved on the spot, and they abandoned Noah and his camp, and they went back home to their old ways. The second group was filled with doubt. They became terrified. And every single morning they would wake up and they wouldn't be in peace. They would be in a constant, inner struggle inside, a conflict whereby, they wanted so much to believe in Noah's call, and a lot of things about Noah's call made sense. But at the same time, they thought to themselves, how can we unify that from Noah's call that we love so much and that makes sense with this promise that failed and didn't come true? And so they remained like that in a state of doubt. Their faces changed, their treatment of Noah changed, but they didn't leave. They remained with him. But their motivation was much less. You could see the grogginess in their faces. You could see, the interest and the passion about the call had gone away. Mm-hmm. Their faith decreased. And then you had the third group of believers, which was the group of believers. And those guys, they looked at each other and they said, Allah and his messenger have spoken the truth. It doesn't matter to us. We weren't believing in you with a stipulation or a condition. Even if the punishment doesn't come down at all, you are still a proof for us. We hold on to you no matter what. And the reason why this group of believers had held on to Noah, without any doubt, other narrations clarified the reason why. And the reason why is because the believers from the time of Adam all the way down to the time of Noah, they used to hold on to this paper that was written by the prophet Adam. And they used to gather once a year, and they would open up that paper, that scroll that was written by the prophet Adam, and they would read in there the names of his successors. He had a final will, a final testament in which Adam had written down all the names of the successors of Adam after his passing all the way down to the time of Noah. And the final name on the list of the successors was Noah. And so they once a year would gather, they would look into the scroll, and they would look forward to the coming of their savior, Noah, who was prophesied as kind of a messianic figure for them in that time, or a Mahdi-like figure. And they knew that nobody could claim to be Noah, right, this figure in the will, except for Noah, or else what is the point of Adam writing down these names for them if anybody could just claim to be Noah? Then that will would not be a source of guidance for them anymore, but rather it would be a source of misguidance. So they knew that this promise was protected, the will was protected, and they believed in it blindly. They believed in the will that Adam had given them, and we too also, and that's another parallel between this time and between that time, is the fact that just as Adam left a will, we also in this day and age and our religion in particular is built around this idea that we are the only followers on the face of the earth that follow and hold on to the will of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, while all the other Muslims either abandoned the will, disbelieved in it, or they doubted in it and didn't hold on to it. We here are the only ones that held on to it, to the point that when a man appeared claiming to be Ahmed in the will, in the same fashion that we have Noah who appeared and claimed to be Noah in Adam's will, we held on to him tightly and we believed in him without any sort of conditions, and were prepared to stand by his side, no matter how long it took or takes. Going back to that narration with the tests, the same thing would happen in the second round, where they had to plant that second seed. It grew and it gave forward its fruits. And once it did, the believers, they came back to Noah and those who were in doubt, and they asked him, when is the punishment going to happen? And Noah closes his eyes and comes down upon him Gabriel, and Gabriel instructs him to inform the people that yet they are not ready, that they must plant a new seed from the tree. Right? And when that seed becomes a full tree, then the punishment would happen. And so this same thing took place and repeated itself 10 times, right? 10 times they would be told that the punishment would happen. 10 times they were told that they have to take the seed from the fruit of the tree, plant it into the ground, wait until it becomes a full-grown tree. And 10 times the believers would be broken down into, 3 groups: a group of disbelievers, a group of doubters, and a group of believers. Each time that the promise was delayed, Noah's camp would become fewer and fewer, until in the very end, according to some narrations, there was 70 some companions that ended up riding on the ark. Other narrations stated that there was only Noah and his family, basically his children and their wives, that got onto the ark, that those were the only ones that remained. Noah and his wife, and also his 3 sons and their wives, for a total of 8 individuals. And that's the narrative that also matches that which is given to us in the Torah, the narrative in Genesis. And so, that story itself, it reminds us of a narration from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that states that if we say something about a person and it's not in him, but rather it's in his son or his son's son, then don't deny it. And that is a reference to this story from the time of Noah, because God had said something about the seed of that tree, that once it was planted and it became a full tree, then the punishment would happen. And yet it was delayed, and it wasn't in that tree, but rather it was in that tree's seed. Rather, it was in its seeds, right? And so they didn't have the right to deny that fact. And then the wisdom was given in the very end of the narration. And it was said that as such will be done in the time of the Qa'im, that the believers with the Qa'im would be sifted, and they would be tested, and they would be tried and be given great tribulations, right? In order that all those who entered into the call or the da'wah of the Qa'im, whose names were not written in the book of life, and those whose clay was impure, and those who we would be afraid that if they entered into the divine just state, that they would take advantage of it and corrupt it like every other corrupt government that's on the face of the earth right now, until all of those ones apostate and are sifted and fall through the sifting and go away and disbelieve, then the relief would happen. And so now we have a reason why the dawah of the Qa'im takes a long time, and that's to kind of until the dust settles, until all of the worms and the impurities fall through the sifting, and there only remains at the end of the day the true grain or the true wheat or the true rice, the purest of substances remain at the end of the day. And we have Imam Ahmad Hassan alayhi salam, who also said that it's out of mercy for mankind that the matter is delayed. And he says that, after 950 years, in one of his speeches, he says, after 950 years, Noah called down for the punishment upon his people. But if he had to wait even 1,000 years, he would not call down the punishment upon his people. And that just goes to show you a few things. One is that the transgression that occurs in the time of the Qa'im and the time of the Imani and the Mahdi is much greater than the transgression that occurred in the time of Noah, and that people will disbelieve much quicker in the time of the Qa'im than they would in the time of Noah, and that God will bring down that punishment upon them because he'll be angrier with the people in the time of the Qa'im than he was even in the time of Noah, because the people are much, much worse. And it also shows you that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are better than, Ahmad Hassan alayhi salam is better than, higher than, the Prophet Noah alayhi salam, and he is Al-Hussein. And that goes along with the narration from the Ahlul Bayt, in which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that the scholars of my nation are better than the prophets of the Bani Israel. And obviously in another narration, he clarifies what is the meaning of scholars. And the meaning of scholars are the Imams who are appointed, the infallible ones who are appointed from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, but not like the general scholars. We have some of the Shia, unfortunately, they think that this means that Sistani or Khamenei or any one of these scholars that wears a turban is better than the prophets of the Israelites or all the prophets that came before. But we know that this is specifically talking about the people of the house, the successors of the Prophet Muhammad. And we know this because other narrations, besides those who even identify them as being the scholars, because they say we are the scholars, there are narrations that state that on the Day of Judgment, that the judgment of the prophets and the messengers and all of creation really is dedicated to the Imams from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that they're the ones whom judge the prophets and the messengers on the Day of Judgment, and that each Imam also judges his nation, that God gives them this authority on the Day of Judgment. And that's why it's important to know the Imam of your time, because you are resurrected with that Imam, and it is that Imam who will take his sheep and his flock and cause them to enter into paradise, while condemning all those that lived in his time that abandoned his call. And so we now get a clear picture of what the mission is and what's going on right now. What is the purpose of that which we are doing? Now we get to answer a question or a comment that resurfaces from time to time on the channel, whereby people say, well, what is this Mahdi doing? What is this Qa'im doing? Is he just sitting around making YouTube videos? Why is he not solving the situation in Palestine or doing anything other than that? We are doing exactly what we are supposed to be doing. We are doing that which Noah and Jesus and Moses and the prophets and the messengers and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were commanded to do, and that is to make adhan in the people. We are in the process right now of warning mankind that there is a great punishment. There's a great flood that is coming, and it's coming in this time. And the narrations from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they clarified that not only is there an ark in the time of the Qa'im, but there's also a punishment which comes down in the time of the Qa'im, and the Prophet and his family have spoken about it in great detail. There is a flood that's coming. The narrations state, though, that it's not a flood of water, because God had promised that he would never destroy the earth again with a flood of water, but rather it is a flood of blood. There will be killing, there will be war, there will be hunger, there will be plagues that will strike the earth, and that is exactly where we are right now in the story of Noah's Ark. We are at the hour where the believers went out of their homes because they heard some drops hitting the tops of their houses, and they put their hand outside and they felt raindrops falling on their hand, mere hours or days away from a full flood pouring on the face of the earth. So we are very close to that time period, and we have been calling ever since 2015 till today. That is 9 years we have been calling, informing people that Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam has reappeared and that he is with us. And we've been calling people towards the Ark, which we are building. And that is what we are doing right now, calling the people to the Ark and building the Ark. And the Ark is the divine community of believers, the dawah in which the people must believe in and not abandon, or else they will be destroyed. We are awaiting, as we are making adhan and calling people, knowing that there are people out there for every 1,000 people that mocks us, just as they mocked Noah. There will be one believer, true believer, who will come out of the wilderness and join us and take part in the building of the Ark. And that's what the Qa'im is looking for, his 313 male companions, his 50 female companions that will join him. And then after that, there's the 10,000 that join after that, whom are called the halakah, or the circle. And eventually it will lead to 124,000 prophets and messengers that return, that end up joining with them. According to the book of Revelation, there are 144,000 that end up joining the camp of the Qa'im and the return of Jesus, peace be upon him. And so we're calling people towards that, and we're waiting on these individuals to show up. And the dawah faces a lot of mockery, and the people that are with Noah of the time, the Qa'im and the Yamani, Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, they have to be prepared to face that type of suffering from the people. The narration stated that Noah and his people were attacked, even violently at times, and we see that taking place now with our followers being attacked and imprisoned in all corners of the earth. We have recently believers that were merely expressing the call and inviting people to learn more about our religion. Within a 10-minute period, they were taken off the streets, and they were arrested. They still remain in jail today. In Jordan, we have believers that were arrested and beat up by police in Azerbaijan. We've had people believers in Iraq, their houses shot at and arrested by police and questioned. We've had people in Egypt arrested by the intelligence agencies and disappear off of the face of the earth. We've had people also in Iran be beaten up severely. We've had articles and newspapers and human rights organizations which have all shown light on this fact and this struggle that we are facing. But none of this should discourage us. In fact, it was all things that were promised to happen from before, and the narration spoke about it. And they also spoke about the fact that Noah in his time, there were incidents and times where he was hit over the back of the head, and he remained in a coma-like state for 3 days with blood coming out of his ears, laying down, fainted on the ground before he regains his consciousness due to the oppression that came from the disbelievers. And so we have to be prepared to face that type of tyranny and oppression. But at the end of the day, we know that just like what happened in the time of Noah, that the flood will come. As such, the flood will come in this day and age. And we also know that it will not be until that final hour where it is clear that a storm is coming and that a flood is coming, that you will find animals coming out of the wilderness. You will find giraffes and lions and bears and zebras and tigers and chameleons and snakes and all the different types of species on the face of the earth. They will come forward and they will board onto Noah's Ark. And they themselves are a certain group of characters that we have to draw parallels for in our story. And so what do we have now as we're building the ark? We are calling forward as Noah called forth, and we know that people will come and they will help us build the ark just as they came forward and helped Noah build his ark. So we will have human beings that will come forward now before there's the sign of the imminent punishment that overshadows the skies. All those who join us in this day and age and help us and grant all of their resources and their efforts and their time to spread this call and to help build it. Their example is the example of the companions of Noah. They are the companions of the Qa'im. They are the 313 and the 50 and the chosen ones and the 10,000. They are the ones whom will be rulers over the earth in the divine just state, given that they are not from those whose clay is evil and that end up apostating and leaving at some point when a tribulation or a trial happens. And we also know that the example of the animals will also be present in this call. And it will be at that final hour when the storm appears that all those people who are ignoring the call now, just as the animals ignored the call of Noah in his time, people that are the likes of animals, people that didn't have faith and didn't have ears to hear our call or eyes to see the truth of our call, or brains that had the wisdom to digest, people that have come across us and heard what it is that we are claiming and what it is that we are saying and our warnings about the state of the affairs of the world today and the fact that God is about ready to bring a punishment down on the earth. When the punishment happens, when the economy collapses, when wars are surrounding them and rumors of wars and famine and destruction and chaos, when they have nowhere else to turn, they will remember that they heard us warning on this channel, on this show, and they will seek us out and they will come to us because they will know that we are the only people that have been preparing for it, and they will seek and ask for a place on our ark to come be believers and to join us, and we will open the doors to the ark to them, just like Noah did for the animals in that time. And this dawah, that will be one of the greatest miracles that will occur in this call. And that is when the people in the midst of all of the destruction and chaos will come into this dawah in great numbers. Just like in the verse of the Holy Quran in the Surah Al-Nasr, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ, if the victory of God and the great opening occurs, right? What happens? And the people enter into the religion of Allah in great numbers. This will occur also in our dawah in the time right before the punishment takes place. You will find the likeness of the tigers and the lions and the bears and the antelopes and all these different creatures entering and boarding onto our ark, and it will become a great miracle and such a sign and seen to be seen by all human beings.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me, Anne.
Thank you, Abu Sadiq.
God bless you, and thank you for helping me build this ark. And I know that you yourself, you've been following me for a very long time.
Yeah.
And one day you just decided to get up and come forward, and without prior notice, you just rode on a train, and you came all the way out from Slovenia.
Yes.
And you were here around me, and you were surviving for 5 days in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Sleeping in the park and hanging out in the forest and walking around in the city, looking for us until finally we met up with each other. And alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, you boarded onto the ark safely after much risk and after seeking out the light and the truth. And now you join me in building this great call and calling the people. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you have success in reaching out to the believers that are out there in Slovenia and in that entire region that you were talking to. You're also addressing the people in Serbia and Montenegro and Albania and this entire region, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
God bless you, and thank you for your efforts and your work.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enforce our footsteps.
Allahumma ameen.
Thank you, Abu Sadiq.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.